stuff, but there you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
they've Zoom is, well, I had to do I hate doing computer updates, but they make you do it eventually. I put it off as long as I can, and then eventually you don't get a choice anymore. And so maybe that's it. Maybe it's my computer that's made the Zoom features look different. I don't know, but anyway, we found it.
Listen, at least it's not me with the speakers and the, you know.
Getting pretty good. So, to edit or not to edit, but just to review for quality, make sure everything looks good and sounds good. I go back over all the videos of the podcast, the video versions. And
Right.
I watched our progression, and for like lighting, I finally figured out my lighting. My lighting was like weird in the beginning, and like your lighting looks good. You have found your spot, and we're learning. And it really didn't take us that long.
We're learning as we go. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So how have you been? I haven't talked to you since yesterday. Only kidding.
I know. I'm good. I'm doing good. I don't have any big, huge epiphanies this week. I'm feeling very
Oh, wow.
contemplative, maybe is the like just quiet, and like I'm in the soaking in phase, I guess is what it is. And like calm. I don't
Yeah,
know, like very calm and peaceful and quiet, and just
really.
I don't know. It's some kind of new phase. I like it. But
Yeah.
I don't know. What about you?
I've just this week, I don't know that I've had any great epiphanies either. Just thinking more about my business
Mm-hmm.
and where I wanted to go and who I wanted to serve. Thinking more, focus more on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's a good thing.
that's what yeah,
Yeah.
because our business is what we do. And I did listen to that episode you sent me
You
earlier. I
already
listened to
listened to
that. That
it?
was,
Wow, you
I did.
fast. Okay. Isn't
I did.
wasn't it good?
I listened to it while I was getting coffee this morning. I didn't feel like
Oh, okay.
making any, so I went to Dunkin' Donuts and bought myself a big one.
Okay. Yeah, it's a good
But
one. Good episode.
so, yeah, just been thinking about what I want my life to look like, um, how to get it to look that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I both know that in order to get it to look the way you want it to look, you have to embody it first. You have
Yeah.
to be that person in order for it to
Yeah,
start looking the way you want it to look outside of you.
that's true. That you have
So,
to find that authentic person, I think, to
yeah,
really manifest your heart's desires, because we're manifesting all the time.
exactly.
But if we're not manifesting from that authentic, true place, then we're manifesting things that maybe aren't, either we think we want them, and then once we get them, we're like, oh, that didn't really, turn out
Yeah,
like I thought it did, or we're manifesting negative things for ourselves. But we're always manifesting, always
that is true.
creating.
That is true. We have to really be intentional with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've just been thinking about the direction I want my business to go in and the people that I
Okay.
want to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Just
Of
explore different.
course.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
goodness. Gonna have fun with it. Well, you're having fun with your business.
I am. I am at a point. I don't know why it's taking me so long to get the online course version of
Hmm.
the transformative thinking program done. I am adding things, so it's like way beyond what's on Etsy.
Okay.
But what's happened is I've started down the keys to self mastery, and I'm listening to a book right now on YouTube called the Master Key System. And it's just
Oh, I've heard of that.
okay. It's good. It was like written. You know what? I'm going to do a little caveat, little aside here.
Uh-huh.
What I have discovered is that this book was also written like around the 1920s is when it was originally written. But I kind of like it. I like it better than Napoleon Hill, just my personal choice. But they're all
Uh-huh.
saying the exact same thing. they're all
Of
saying,
course.
so nothing, it's very like
Absolutely.
validating because I'm like, okay, I know a lot of this, but then
Yeah.
it gives me epiphanies too.
Mhm.
Um, so there was a movement back in the early, maybe either late, I think probably it started in the late 1800s called the New Thought movement. And I
Okay.
think that this is where all the terms for like law of attraction and all of that's where I don't think it began any earlier than that. I think that's where those terms came from,
Mhm.
was from that New Thought movement. And it's
Mhm.
ancient knowledge, it's
Mhm.
ancient
Yeah.
knowledge, but it's the way they put it
Yeah.
in. And so there was like this movement and like empower, telling us how powerful we are
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all of that. And then the Spanish flu hit.
Oh, wow.
And I think that
Oh, wow.
kind of like took it all down a notch, right? So like
Right.
most people were focused on on that, just
Getting well, and yeah,
avoiding it. Yeah. And then it came
exactly.
in waves, just like COVID is. In fact,
Right.
my grandmother's parents, both of her parents died in the Spanish flu. She was like
Oh,
14.
goodness.
And yeah, I
What?
forget the order, but one died in the first wave and then the second parent died in the third wave. Ironically, I'm like,
Third
oh,
wave. Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
So yeah, so it was very, that's what this taking up everybody's attention, let's say.
Okay.
And so
Mhm.
now I'm like, okay, so with the social media and like especially TikTok and the younger generation really coming to this knowledge again, and I would see it, before
Mhm.
COVID, all of
Right.
these enlightened young people, and I love it. And
Yeah.
then boom, COVID hit, and I'm like, this is
Mm.
just kind of like what happened
Everything
100,
goes around.
years ago.
Yeah.
But hopefully this time it won't get squashed. But anyway, so I'm listening to that book and kind of going down that, like, so I'm going to write a book called The Keys of Self Mastery.
Oh my
And yes,
goodness.
but we know it. I mean, it's like not, some of the like strategies are my own take on it, but the
Mhm.
core information we already know. It's been, around for eons. But the but I'm also working on this online course. And so they're like overlapping at this point.
Okay.
I'm like, please, for the love of God, finish this online course, because they're getting like, I'm trying to take some of the self-mastery stuff and put it in the online course. I'm like, no, that's beyond the scope of this course. If anything, the course would
Right.
fit in, in it, blah, blah, blah. So that's where I'm at
Yeah.
kind of right now.
Yeah.
But
Oh, good for
that,
you.
sorry, that was quite a long story. I didn't mean to
That's okay.
hog
You're
our time like
no, you're fine.
that.
No,
But,
I'm just saying I've
yeah.
seen the progression of the information that you're putting out, and it's pretty cool. You've got like a whole TikTok-y visual, thing going on. You're gonna have to show me how to do that.
Oh, it's easy. You mean like the videos?
Yeah, yeah.
I prefer that.
Uh-huh.
I found my groove too. And maybe that's
Mhm.
what you're doing right now is
Yeah.
that's what you're doing right now. You're
Yeah.
finding your groove.
Yeah.
And I love talking to you like
Mhm.
this podcast. I love that. But
Mhm.
I don't like to make TikToks of like, myself talking to the camera. I don't like it. It's not natural to
Mhm.
me.
Right.
But what I do now, if I'm like talking about trying to sell a product, I don't mind
Mm.
like doing that, because people probably want to
Mhm.
know, well, who the hell are you?
Right.
But the videos that I make, it's like making little films, little art films, and then
Mm.
finding the matching music and
Yeah.
I've just been using Pexels, but there's
Oh,
all kinds of free. But yeah, we'll have to have coffee
okay.
in person, and I'll show you
Hello.
how to do it. I
Yeah.
know. So yeah.
Pexels, that's a new one. I've never heard of that one.
Oh, okay. Is there another one that you use? Because that's the
I
only one
don't
I really know.
No, I don't know of any.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were using Canva.
Oh no, but you know what? I didn't even They probably have like free domain videos. Like, God, I use Canva all the time. I never even think about them for
Oh,
video.
okay.
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 Yeah. Okay. Thank you. No, I'm using
That's
Pexels,
funny.
which I learned about on TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah, Pexels.com has all kinds of videos on there for free,
Oh
yeah,
my
free domain.
gosh. Okay. Pexels.com.
Yeah. But I think
Let's
there are other
write that
ones too.
down.
PEX. Yeah.
PEXALS.com.
I
Yeah,
think
let's see what I can put together.
PEX, it might be, well, Google will figure it out. Google's good at like, when I don't know how to spell something, they still find it for me.
Of course.
I'm like, how did you figure that out? Because,
Of course.
oh,
So
so
yeah, so that's pretty much what I've been thinking about, what I want my life to look like, and the the podcast that you sent me that I listened to earlier, um, yeah. So there's a lot of thinking that needs to happen. What you want the brand to look like, how to share your story, because
Yes.
I've got a story you know to tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
My path to slowing down and living an unhurried, unrushed, cultured, beautiful life. So I want to share that with people
Hmm.
in hopes
Yeah.
that it can help, other women like myself who have spent their entire lives rushing and doing for everyone else except themselves.
Hmm.
So so eventually I will be sharing that story and
Yeah.
hopefully other women can relate.
I think they really
Have you
will.
done that? Have you had a life where you're just rushing, 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 rushing all the time and
I okay, don't hate, don't get jealous. Not really you, but I mean people listening.
Uh-huh.
So when I was teaching full time, yes.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, that sucked up because I was
Yeah.
not only I was very involved, like with my students. I was more like a coach, life
Mhm.
coach, or as much as I was an English teacher.
Mhm.
But so is that, which I loved, that part I loved, but then I
Mhm.
was always grading, so I never, like, my weekends were always full of grading. And
Oh, okay.
the work goes well beyond the 7 to, people think you work 7 to 3 and you're off on the summer. And I'm like, oh my god, if the teaching part's the easiest part, it's all
Yeah.
the planning and
Right.
conferences and grading and all of that.
Right.
So yeah, back then, yes. And I was tired all the time. I remember on Sundays, I would just crash on the couch, turn
Mhm.
on like a
Mhm.
football game and just kind of fall asleep on the couch to the
Yeah.
sound of the crowd. But other than that, no, because I have not been married and I didn't have children of my own. So
Okay.
I've had a lot of time to myself, which I ironically used to think of as a curse,
Uh-huh. Right.
but now, like, reflecting back, I'm like, oh no, it's been, for me, just for me,
Mhm.
it's been
Mhm.
a blessing, especially when I
Yeah.
see people like you and other women. I really truly do not know how you do it.
It's, women run on autopilot.
Tell me about it. Talk about it, because it's
We
really
run
something I don't know. So you
we
talk
run
about
on autopilot. So when the babies are born, it's all about them, making sure that you don't kill them because you don't know they're a new life.
it.
And the only thing you're doing is making sure that you don't kill this little baby. you know,
Right.
you feed it, you look at it, you're in the middle of the night, you're you're checking on it to make sure it's still breathing,
Oh,
you're just making sure that you don't kill it.
yeah.
And then and I mean, really,
I'll
that's
bet
the
there are a
truth
lot
of
of
it.
women out there that can relate to you.
Oh my goodness. Please. Oh my goodness. When Ronnie was born, it was like, well, he was 6 weeks early. And so, yeah, talk about not wanting to kill
Oh,
him.
really? Oh,
Yeah, he was
no.
early. He was a preemie. Luckily, he was 4 pounds when he was born.
Okay.
Um, and so he stayed in the hospital for a good 3 weeks so that he could grow a little bit. And then we brought him home. But even then, it's scary because now there's no manual that comes with the babies. Like, okay, here you go. Here's your child.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Take it. Yeah, take it home. And so you spend most of your time trying not to kill it. And then the baby is cute, it's growing, and your world becomes that baby. And ensuring that that baby is happy,
Hmm.
ensuring that you do everything right. And so your whole life is encompassed with this child. And then, I go and have another one.
Do it
And
all
so
over again.
now I know how not to kill it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Jordan's lucky.
Yes. So now I know how not to kill it. And
Yeah.
so now you have another person to feed and to nurture, and your whole world is surrounded by that. And then they discover what they like. And
Mhm.
so, Ronnie discovered he loves trains, and so you get
Oh.
everything train related for him, whatever it is that they, oh my goodness, they love that. So you start to nurture that. And, Ronnie fell in love with football. And so my whole world became going to football games, taking
Mm.
him to practice, doing all of that. Jordan became swimming. And so I was at every swim meet, every practice, so my life was all about the children,
Mhm.
you know, and, it's that way. I mean, it's
Still that way, right?
it's still that way, and they're both in college now,
Yeah.
and then it becomes, the college games, the high school games, the high school swim meets, the championship meets that are wherever they are, going up and down the East Coast, traveling with them wherever their games are, their meets are. It's still that way, and after a while, I don't think that there is resentment. I think it's, I got to a point in my life where it's, okay, so where am I?
Mhm.
Who am I?
Mhm.
What do I like? What do I
Yeah.
love? What do I love to do? Because it was all about the boys. And I sprinkled a little bit of myself into their lives. I mean, I was always enamored with the French culture. So I started studying French. I went back to school, got my art history degree. So somewhere in there, I did, figure out that I do love things and pursued those things as I was
Mhm.
being mom still, you
And
know?
wife. You're not even
And
talking.
oh, I
You're
know,
not
I
even
didn't even
bringing
mention that. Oh my goodness.
and
Tell me
running
about it.
running a household and working outside of the home.
Tell me about it. So,
I don't see how
yes,
I
I
have a
did
lot
all
of
of that
respect for
too.
women.
I think that women, after you have the children, sometimes you forget about the husband
Mhm.
because because he's all into the kids too.
Mhm.
And you forget about the two of you. And I guess that's why some marriages drift apart because
Yeah.
it's all about the kids. And you forgot about you forgot about us,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's in there too,
Yeah.
doing the same thing. I don't believe that men do as much as women because I was a stay-at-home mom and I
Mhm.
was the one that took them all to practices and so forth, and he was the one that worked.
Right.
Um,
But
but
you're
and then
working too. I mean, you're managing
and now
the
I am.
household and schedules and
Exactly. Oh my goodness, keeping it all together.
yes.
And in the middle of all that, I sprinkled in, learning how to cook French cuisine, which was pretty
Mhm.
cool. The children benefited from that.
Yeah.
I think Ronnie's first words was creme brulee.
Did they love like the French culture like you do?
Oh
Did
my
they pick that up
goodness.
from you?
Yes.
They did.
Yeah. They love French food, and remember the croque monsieur we had a couple of weeks ago? So I
Yes.
had learned how to make that. And so, I sprinkled in a little of who I was
Mhm.
throughout their growing up. So that was nice. At least I didn't completely lose all of me,
Mhm.
But now they are very old, 21, 24.
Yeah.
And so it's back to who do I want to be full time?
Right.
And how can I transition from being that person
Mhm.
and become someone different, someone that I want to be, someone that is um, more cultured, more into the French culture so that I can teach it. I want to embody that person,
Mhm.
and that's who I want to be for the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
navigating that.
Mhm.
And I don't regret any of it. My gosh, their childhood was so much better than mine. And I think that as parents, we want our children's lives to be different than ours was when
Mhm.
we grew up. So I intentionally made sure that whatever their passions were, I supported that. Whatever it was that they gravitated towards, I wanted them to know who they were, you know? Mhm. I did
What
that.
what
Mhm.
if, here's an
Uh-huh.
epiphany,
Uh-huh.
in this new phase of your life,
Mhm.
you did that for yourself?
Exactly. Exactly.
What if you were like interested in trains,
Mhm.
you suddenly went out and got a bunch of
Mhm.
trains,
Right.
or
Right.
yeah, any
Yeah.
of that. So
Yeah.
wow.
So, yes. So I'm learning, which I will write about.
Hmm.
I'm learning to say it's kind of like if you're on a new road, you say, "Oh, I wonder where that goes." So I'm learning
Yeah,
to explore things that pop up.
I
Like
love
I'm
it. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like, "Okay, I wonder where that will lead." I wonder if I can do that. So I'm just following the
The-
little passions that are coming up, the little things that are coming up for myself and seeing where they lead.
and isn't
Mhm.
that really, I mean, I think of following the flow, but isn't that really, I feel like that's how we were meant to live life anyway,
Mhm. Absolutely.
following it and
Absolutely.
yeah.
Following that. That is life, isn't it?
Yes.
I always wondered, when people say, I need to find a life. I wonder, what does that mean? I need to find a life. Do you know what that means? What does that mean? Is that
Um,
something that it's individual when someone says I need to find a life? Because what does a life look like? What does it really look like? I guess it's individual, right?
I think it's individual and someone, it's getting to that authentic self.
Mhm.
That's what it is. I want to make a
Mhm.
life for myself, or I want to find a life. That means, I think that's another way of saying I want to get out of this programmed self, which
Mhm.
may, some of the
Mhm.
aspects may or may not be authentic to me, but likely a lot of,
Mhm.
but since most of it was given to me, I want to
Mhm.
find out who I really am. I want to get to
Mhm.
my authentic self.
And what
Um,
constitutes living a really good life? Like, what is that?
oh, I think that is different for everybody,
Yeah, that
for
is different
sure.
for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that would be different for
Because
everyone.
some people may really like the hustle. They may love like
Mm.
either working for someone else or having their own business, but putting in like 70 or 80 hours. They may truly like that, motivates them and gives them energy and all of that. For me, I can't imagine doing that.
Right.
I've never
Right.
been one, I've never wanted to do that. Yeah. So I think,
Right.
yeah, so I think it's different for each
Mhm.
individual, which is, how cool is that?
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So everyone can assess what a good life looks like for them and feels like for them,
Hmm.
you know? For me, I'm still learning about that actually, what it looks like for me. Um, I do know that I don't like to be stagnant,
Hmm.
and I like experiencing new and different things,
Yeah.
you know? Um, Gosh, that makes me so happy to be able to, travel to different places and see different things. That just lights me up.
Hmm.
It really does. Yeah.
Are you
Seeing how
making
other
a
people
list?
live.
Are
Yeah.
you making a list? Seriously. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's the thing, is to make a list and
Hmm.
keep
Of what
track of
lights me
it.
up. Yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah. And I especially love meeting people from different places
I
and
love
learning
that.
about
Yeah,
their
I do
experiences and
too.
how they live their lives.
Yeah.
It's just fascinating seeing how people live.
I
Yeah.
think that's probably one of the things I miss most since
Mhm.
COVID, is
Mm.
being out, just wherever I would go, the grocery store,
Mhm.
Walgreens, wherever I am, like getting my brakes done or oil change or whatever. I always love to talk to people, like you just
Yeah.
said, and just
Yeah.
Just talk to them, especially if they're from another part of the country or another part of the
Yeah.
world. Oh my God, I love that. I could spend
Yeah.
hours talking to someone from other parts of the world. And I miss that. I really miss
Mm,
having those conversations with people. I
yeah.
feel like we're maybe starting to get back,
Maybe.
hopefully, fingers crossed.
Hopefully no third wave.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Not like
Listen.
that. I mean, at least unlike them, we have treatments,
Yeah, that's true. That is
so,
true.
and
That's definitely true.
more science behind it. But
Right.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's probably the best part of traveling is just meeting people, experiencing different foods. Um, yeah, and talking to people. When I went to Montreal, I met people from India, I met people from China, I met people from Africa. There
Like
were people from
living there or visiting?
that lived there.
Okay.
And I just talked to people at the coffee shop, and there it's just
Hmm.
a, an array of different ethnicities and cultures. It was just wonderful.
Hmm.
And maybe I should start a series just talking to people because I'm really fascinated with how people live their lives
Hmm.
and what I'm interested in what brings people joy.
Mm.
Like what makes you happy? What brings you joy? You know, I think I'm going to
Yeah.
do like some interviews or something of people just finding out how they incorporate and bring joy into their lives.
Hmm.
Because everyone I met in Montreal just seemed so freaking happy. I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you so happy? That was like, what? You're like, they're like beaming.
I was, been wondering about that. Just because of, the recent events in the news, but our poor little country
Mm,
is just
mm,
so I just feel like we're just going through trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. And really, I mean, if I look back in history, it's been going on for a long, long time. But so I was wondering about that. I'm like, okay, I wonder, I don't ever hear about these issues in other countries, like the mass shootings and things, not like it as common as it is here. And not just that. Are you kidding me? Can you see that? Can you see that pop up? I don't know if it
it
comes.
says 9 minutes.
Why is there they've changed something then.
Mm,
They've changed something. Well,
all right.
Jordan's going to have to teach me how to splice.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
so what is so I wonder, is it the same? Is this happening in other countries? Because like you
Right.
just said, in Montreal, they're like beaming. They have this thing. And people that I know from other countries or that have lived in other countries, particular, like I have family in Spain right now that have moved to Spain, the south of Spain. And it's so incredible, for them. Life is just it's a 180 from here, living here, just so many things. And then I follow a lot of expats, and I think you do too, on TikTok,
Yeah.
that live
Yeah.
in many different countries.
Yeah.
And not one of them has ever regretted
Right.
it moving,
Yeah.
number one. And then you
Yeah.
hear about all these positive changes. So I'm like, I don't know what.
Well, I do know that in studying French culture,
Mhm.
there is something that's ingrained in them when they're growing up. It's an ingraining of living,
What is it?
just just living, period, and not pursuing, just being.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's something that's ingrained in them
Okay.
when they're younger. You're gonna be who you are, and it's
Mhm.
okay who you are. And the purpose of life is to enjoy it because we're floating around on this rock
I
a-
mean, come on.
and we're here to enjoy it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to enjoy.
Mhm.
And that's something that's ingrained in them, that life was meant to be lived joyfully and
Yeah.
pleasantly and to partake of all the beautiful things that are in it.
And there are so many
and not to rush
beautiful
through it.
things in it. That's if we look at nature,
Mhm.
nature is a 100% an example of abundance.
My
Their
goodness.
abundance is everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I agree. The scarcity, well, I don't even, I don't want to move this into like a political conversation,
Yeah.
but just as the abundant, we were meant to, there's plenty of water and food for everyone on the planet. There's
Right.
plenty, anyway, yeah, we were meant
Yeah.
to, like you said, pursue that, and
So if that,
abundance is the plan.
instead of, in our culture where you have to pursue, pursue success, pursue this, pursue that, our culture is more about pursuing, and the French European culture is more about being.
Hmm.
It's more about,
And if you can be, you're
mhm.
more likely to be your authentic self, find your authentic self. You know why? Because
They don't have the issues we have.
it's an internal state. If you're
Exactly.
allowed to be, and that's how
Exactly.
you live your life, it's an
Exactly.
internal state. If you are in a culture that is always pursuing, that's an external state. That's something else.
Exactly.
And that can
Exactly.
cause stress and struggle and strife. Oh,
Exactly. So
yes.
it's more
Okay.
about, yep, being, and not striving for that external stuff. It's more about how you feel and just moving, being yourself.
Yeah.
And yep.
But the wonderful news is
Mhm.
that we have this very powerful thing called our mind.
Mhm.
And even though we live in a society that maybe focuses a lot on pursuing, we
Mhm.
can choose
Mhm.
to our perspectives. So if it's actually, now I'm thinking like if it's on a spectrum and you have being at one end and pursuing on the other,
Yeah,
we get to choose where we can slide that at anywhere on that spectrum that we want. So we
exactly.
can choose, and it's okay. I mean, and it's like, okay, pursuing's not really for me. So let me move here into the middle, or
Mhm.
maybe I want to be all the way to being, or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more at this stage in my life, more about being
Hmm.
and sharing my being
Right.
with people, as
Hmm.
opposed to pursuing, and teaching women how to be, just be. Because
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard when you have been conditioned to
Mm.
live a certain way, and now you're wanting to flip that.
Yeah.
And I think we may have talked about this, where you just have to let the old you die away to
Yeah.
bring up the
The
new
new,
you.
yeah. You have
Yeah.
to like turn your head,
Yeah.
like turn your head. Yeah. And focus on that Socrates quote, and
Hmm.
focus on building the new.
Yeah.
And it's so true. I learned something really, really interesting about
What?
the brain, the way the brain
Hmm.
physically works that ties into that.
Hmm.
Um, as part of my research of the things that I'm adding to the online course.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. The brain is such a miraculous thing. Every time I learn about it, I'm like, why are we taught more about this in
Yeah.
school and all of that? But I'm going to hold that thought because I know that our time. I wish this gave me. Oh, there it is, right there.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
we have
3 minutes.
4 minutes really almost.
Hmm.
Never mind. Okay, I'll go on with it.
Okay. Okay.
So the brain, and this ties into law of attraction. This is completely how the way that the law of attraction and manifestation
Hmm.
is. I don't like the way some people put it as like, and they make it external and they make it
Right.
this woo woo thing, but it's
Yeah.
always something external to go after. But the truth is, it's already within us. The power is
Right.
within us, and it's the mind, the brain that's making it happen by
Right.
creating new neural pathways for
Hmm.
something. If I
Hmm.
want a new car, and I'm gonna use an external thing, but if I want a new car and I just start visualizing it and focusing on it, and the more I do it and the more I repeat it, that
Right.
new neural pathway is being created in the brain, and
Hmm.
then then it moves to the subconscious, and the subconscious says, I'm on it. And that's how those things come to us.
Right.
um but here's what's really interesting about the brain, and can interfere with manifestation. I did not know this.
Hmm.
So when we are all right, so we have all these neurons in the brain, and I forget how many hundreds of millions, but the neurons are connected. with these dendrites, and forgive me if I'm getting some of this wrong. This is
Mhm.
new to me. They look
No.
like tree branches. And that is where like the neurons communicate with other brain cells and like, oh,
Right.
what do we want to make this neural pathway or whatever? When
Right.
we are in a relaxed state, like a meditative state, peaceful state, those
Mhm.
dendrites grow and multiply. And the more dendrites we have, the quicker and faster and more the neurons, the brain cells can communicate, and the quicker they can create those deep neural pathways, which mean permanent change.
Really?
But when we are under a state of stress, and
Uh-huh.
oh my God, who isn't under, I mean, just look at,
Yeah.
stress and anxiety. It
Yeah.
causes that process to stop. And we can't
Oh,
create new neural pathways, and especially deep ones and permanent ones, under a state of stress or fear or anxiety. We
isn't that
can't
something? So
create.
that's so that's where that saying, "You can't solve a problem. You can't solve a problem in this where you can't where the problem came from."
Or with
Do you know
another
what do you
problem.
know that?
You can't solve a
Well,
problem.
you can't solve a problem from the same place that started the problem. Do you know
Yeah,
it's
something,
something like
yes,
that,
yeah,
something
I
like
kind
that,
of, yeah, I
anyway.
do know it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
so, because yeah.
But yeah,
Um,
that makes
and
sense.
so think of a society that is created on like values or principles of pursuing and
Yes.
hustle, and all of that's going to typically put most of us in a state of anxiety and stress. Or think of the media and what they focus on. Why is it never happy news with them,
Yeah.
uh, all of that is, and keeps us in a constant state of stress, anxiety, and fear. It makes it very difficult, if not impossible, to create that life that we want. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. But the thing is, there are ways around it, and I'm going to end there because we have less than
Okay.
1 minute. It's the
All right.
cliffhanger.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
hold on a second.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Cancel that. It'll actually, it's just going to run out on itself. Then how, I don't see how to
Okay.
end the. They have changed all the icons
Really?
on my Zoom. So stop recording. I have to go